46 years ago, my parents wanted a baby, so they went to the Children's Aid Society to adopt a baby. The next year, my parents adopted me at 6 weeks old. I'm so grateful that my parents adopted my sister and me, because I don't know what we would have gone through in our lives without our loving parents. I was a normal, healthy, developing baby until I turned 14 months old, and I developed Ray's syndrome. This Ray's syndrome caused damage to my brain and resulted in cerebral palsy. My uncle on my mother's side wanted my parents to place me into a hospital and forget about me. My parents would never think about putting me into a hospital and forgetting about me. After developing cerebral palsy, I attended a treatment center to work on my muscles. My muscles were stiff as a board, and when my father arrived home from work, he came into my bedroom and spoke to me. I somehow noticed his voice and turned my head to look at him. Turning my head to look at him made my parents aware that I could do anything in the future. Communicating with my parents was so important for me, so my team at the treatment center introduced me to bliss symbols. When a child learns how to talk, he learns a few words at a time. I learned a few bliss symbols at a time. I had 713 bliss symbols on my bliss symbol display by the time I started grade 1. My parents wanted to adopt a sister for me to have, and I was the first person to hold my new sister. My parents were hoping that my sister would help me in the future. We mostly fought like cats and dogs when we were growing up. Our parents and I believed that my sister wouldn't fit in any normal family except ours, because my mother learned to have very good patience through dealing with me and all the treatments that I had to have to make me better. Granted, she was my baby sister and I loved her very much, because I now have 2 wonderful nephews. In grade 1, I spent part of my time integrated into Holbrook Elementary School. I spent 1 term doing this, and my parents and teachers felt that physically the amount of activity required in this type of classroom setup was too exhausting for me. The class I was in was on a top floor of a school which had 2 flights of stairs which I had to climb numerous times a day. There was no washroom facility available on that floor either. Since I was a child, my parents felt that I was missing out on my valuable childhood playtime because I returned from school physically unable to do anything except sleep. I went through the normal school system because my parents knew what my abilities were. However, there were some roadblocks that the school board had placed up in front of me to go through the school system. When I was about 7 years old, I was enrolled in a special ed class, but I found that this class was not real school. I told my parents about my concerns about this school. The last straw was when my teacher wanted us to write letters to Santa Claus, and I refused to write a letter to Santa Claus. Then this teacher slapped my hand. On that night, my parents immediately pulled me out of this class, and I was taught by my mother in our home until my parents arranged with the board that I should go to Holbrook School. After attending Holbrook School, it was arranged that I should go to Linden Park School. One of my memories is of my parents and my grade 3 teacher planning that my entire class go singing Christmas carols around my neighborhood. My teacher split my class up to sing Christmas carols. The first half was done before my half, and they sneaked into my house. They jumped out and yelled surprise when I arrived home. We then had a special Christmas party because I was scheduled to have an operation on my mouth to correct my drooling problem. I know that this would never ever happen in today's society, but looking back, when I saw all of my friends jumping out and yelling surprise, I wish that Linden Park School would have a school reunion. In grade 3, I had decided to not use my symbol board anymore because the rest of my fellow classmates were learning how to spell, so I asked my mother to make an alphabet board. Making the decision to switch from my symbol board to my word board was the best move on my part because spelling words opened doors for me. I had numerous operations to fix my drooling problem. Right now, the drooling problem can be fixed in one operation. I didn't mind that my doctor was using me as a guinea pig because I saw my neighborhood friends were constantly staring at my wet t-shirt. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, if my neighborhood friends were constantly staring at my wet t-shirts, what the adult population would think about my wet shorts. My mother found a great doctor at Sick Children's Hospital in Toronto. He said that I would be a great patient for these operations to fix my drooling problem. I went through 4 different operations. When I had my last operation on my mouth, I looked like a chipmunk because my face was swollen and very painful. I was in the middle of my grade 7 year when I had my last operation. My friends in my class thought that I looked great when I no longer had the drooling problem. Over 6 years starting when I was 11 years old, I had 4 operations on my legs. I needed some morphine and Demerol to calm my muscles down. However, my doctor forgot to put this medication down on my chart and he took his holidays just after my operation on my left hip. My toes had a great deal of spasms, so I could not get some sleep until my doctor's resident wrote on my chart that I should have gotten this medication for my leg spasms. My orthopedic surgeon wanted to operate on my legs when I was 11 years old. My parents wanted me to have as normal a childhood as possible, so they took me to the brand new mall, Lime Ridge Mall. My mother was pushing me in a wheelchair. There was an old woman who was walking past us. She asked my mother if she had beaten me up. No one has the right to ask a parent of a kid with disabilities who has a cast on her/his legs that kind of question. My mother couldn't lift me when I was in a body cast, so my parents decided that I should stay in McMaster Hospital when my second operation on my left hip was done.